Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for attending, especially you, sir. My session, Flexible Storage for Hybrid Clouds. I'm Nathan Hall, and I lead systems engineering for Pure Storage. And I hope that some of you out there, if not all of you out there, are wondering, like, who the heck is Pure Storage? And as part of that, also, why would I really care about storage at all? And I'll get into detailed answers to those questions today. But at a high level, the answer is data services and data gravity. Some applications have too much data gravity to easily migrate up to AWS, while other applications depend on advanced data services, and sometimes they can't find those data services in the storage layer up in the public cloud, so they're challenged to run there effectively. And let me give you an example. I've talked to a lot of CIOs over the past few years, and I usually ask a question along the lines of, what's preventing you from taking more advantage of the public cloud, of AWS? And think about, you've probably got some sort of strategy to move some or most or even all of your environment up to AWS, but what's preventing you from getting to that last 10, 20, or 30% of the applications that you targeted but just can't seem to get there? And usually the answer I get back is something along the lines of, well, Nathan, I've got petabytes of data that's attached to this, these mission-critical applications, some of which are monolithic. And this application, I can barely take any outage on it at all, let alone the lengthy outage I'd need to take all the data, the complex data topology, and move it up to the cloud in the consistent state that those monolithic apps need. Or maybe it's about the advanced data services, right? That application depends on synchronous replication across multiple sites, so I have zero downtime and zero data loss. Or it could be an application like SAP, where the SAP basis developers have built into their workflow lots and lots of copies, and they expect those copies to be refreshed instantaneously from production. And because they might need as many as 10 copies of data, I can't economically afford to have those 10 copies use 10 times the actual amount of space. So I need those copies to be space efficient. So ultimately, those CIOs are telling me it is too much data gravity or not enough data services that are preventing them from taking full advantage of the public cloud like they want to. Now, we're going to get into, if I click the thing here, we're going to get into this agenda today, and we're going to start off by discussing a modern data experience. It's really a foundation that we believe is key to delivering consistency, mobility, and agility across your hybrid cloud. Ultimately, having you care less about data gravity and having you know that advanced data services are available, ubiquitous, anywhere, so any app can run anywhere. And that's really enables these use cases and these benefits that you see right here, from building cloud agility to fundamentally getting a lot more out of your cloud storage, to really enabling simple hybrid cloud mobility. Again, the concept of any app being able to run anywhere, even a legacy monolithic traditional application. And the concept of a modern data experience comes from really observing customers and seeing that so many of them have anything but, have a very legacy data experience. There may be pockets of a modern data experience that they have, but often their most important applications, their most important data, have the slowest insights, and they're stuck in the place where those applications were born. They can't easily move to somewhere else. And so a modern data experience is really both a vision and a methodology. It's a vision because it drives Pure's direction. It drives everything that we invest in, from products to feature enhancements, et cetera. And it's also a methodology. So the methodology that we use to enable that experience across our customers. And it starts with these 4 pillars. The first one here is accelerating core applications. And that's simply about freeing up all applications to have fast access to data. So no matter what the type of application is, whether it's cloud native or a legacy monolithic app, you can get quick insights out of it across your entire landscape. And that enables things like activating real-time analytics and AI. You might have noticed that a lot of the times the place where your data is created isn't necessarily where you're able to analyze that data. And so you often have to move the data before you can analyze it, delaying insights out of that data. And this is about ensuring that your data layer is fast anywhere at any scale so that you can drive real-time analytics where you actually create the data. And also, that now with Portworx Data Services, which we announced yesterday, the ability to have full stack analytics as a service anywhere, things like NoSQL, SQL available at any scale in any location. That naturally leads to the concept of enabling multi-cloud, multiple cloud service providers. The ability to have really any app run anywhere. And a great example of this is, think about, again, those legacy monolithic apps. Yes, that traditional app can run great in AWS with no changes, no refactoring, it can run great as is. And finally, modernize data protection. And this is a really important one, because if you've looked over the past few years, we've all seen that data has gotten much, much more important. And for those of you out there that are having some sort of conference buzzword bingo game, I'll go ahead and say the phrase now so you can mark your card. Data is the new oil. It's obviously overused, it's trite, but it's so true because ultimately data has gotten so much more valuable over the past few years. But at the same time, ransomware actors have gotten much more active. So those two problems combined together, when you look at the data protection landscapes we created, they were created before those two problems or opportunities existed, or at least before they were as true as they are now. And ultimately, modernizing data protection is about ensuring that you're able to, your backup copies can never be deleted. And that's the primary attack vector for a ransomware actor. On top of that, it's about ensuring that you can restore your data across your entire landscape in minutes to hours versus the days to weeks to sometimes even never that we've seen in the news recently. Now, I'm going to stop here because I know that I've had a lot of Pure Storage Kool-Aid over my career here. I'm obviously pretty biased, but that's why third-party credibility is so important. If you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant across primary storage, and this is for all storage, not just all flash storage, this is across all storage. Gartner's done a pretty rare thing here, which is they've identified Pure Storage not just as a leader, but the clear leader in the Magic Quadrant. We are furthest over to the right and furthest north. And that's a relatively rare thing for Gartner to do. They do it when there is just such clear technological leadership for a company. And so, for example, one of the few other Magic Quadrants where Gartner does this is, of course, for the public cloud quadrant, where AWS is also a clear leader, having created the sector in the first place. And we are absolutely committed to the partnership. Everything that Pure does, it works on AWS. So every product we have works on or with AWS 100% of our portfolio. We're 100% committed to AWS and AWS's customers. And that partnership includes being the first to have our entire stack AWS Outposts certified. We're an advanced technology partner. We have our storage competency complete, and we're in the process of completing our government, education, and healthcare competencies. We're a co-sell partner, and Portworx by Pure, which is our solution for data services for Kubernetes, works today on EKS, and it's coming to the AWS government marketplace soon. Now let's get specific on how you can accelerate your cloud and really rethink your cloud and accelerate your hybrid cloud initiatives. And we're going to start with how you build cloud agility on-prem, because that is part of the key, the foundation to how you're able to then move that, if you want to, out to the public cloud. And Pure is the only major on-premises storage vendor that was founded post-cloud. And by major, I mean over $1 billion shows up on IDC reports, et cetera, not a small startup. And that has made us have tremendous advantages in the public cloud space. As a result, we have really no legacy architectures and mindsets to adapt to. Our cloud mentality, it permeates our products, and that has allowed us to create a truly unified hybrid cloud experience where you have the same exact data services, the same performance, the same reliability, both on premises and in the public cloud. And that fundamental tenet that unlocks any app to run anywhere. So the ability to, again, even legacy monolithic apps can run great as is in AWS. But that cloud experience isn't just about the technology. The technology enables it, but it's also about the financials. So you can have a subscription that can start anywhere and go anywhere. So you're not locked into the investments that you made on premises. Those financial investments can seamlessly translate up to AWS because it's one subscription, it's one price on both on premises and cloud, and the underlying technology allows the flexibility anywhere. You can scale up, or most notably, even on premises, you can scale rapidly down. A lot of the fine print that you'd see on kind of traditional lease-based utilities from on-premises providers doesn't exist with us. And the storage is fully managed by Pure. There's no new box to manage. It's all the same environment. The technology allows the data to go anywhere, and the financials are the same on either side. Again, that investment you make on premises can translate directly up into the cloud. Now let's dig into Cloud Block Store, or as we call it, CBS. CBS was built originally for customers that, like I talked about at the beginning, couldn't originally complete 100% of their cloud journey. They struggled to get that last 30% full of monolithic apps up to AWS for a variety of reasons. And because of that, we built CBS. And CBS Cloud Block Store is for apps that need enterprise block storage, often your most important apps. And fundamentally, it's the same software that we've had running on our physical storage appliances for years, the exact same software now running on AWS infrastructure, leveraging EC2, EBS, as well as S3. And with that, you are able to get all of those advanced data services that many applications have come to depend on premises up in the cloud. The same features, the same performance, the same reliability, and also one pane of glass for all of your arrays that you manage, whether they're virtual in the cloud or physical on premises. And that means services such as always-on encryption or deduplication, zero space snaps. And I'll give you an example because we have the industry's leading data reduction solution. So from a technological perspective, for example, we have the smallest window that allows us to have the greatest amount of deduplication. So 512 bytes, where everybody else looks at a granularity of 4K, 8K, or higher. That means that our customers get, on average, 10x storage reduction compared to what they would have off of running native cloud storage. So 1/10 the space running on Cloud Block Store, on average, versus 10 times the space that they would have running on native cloud storage. And that enables these types of use cases. Really, let me show you kind of what it looks like to have one data services experience anywhere. You're able to replicate from anywhere to anywhere. So your DR, complex DR that you might have set up originally in a physical environment can now replicate out to a virtual environment. That makes it very easy to redeploy the topologies and the DR strategies that you already architected out to the cloud. In fact, if you have direct connect, you can even do migrations and DR failover to the cloud from a physical array to a virtual array in the cloud with zero data loss and zero downtime. That allows for unprecedented application mobility. You can also do the same type of topology virtual only across multiple availability zones or from an asynchronous perspective across multiple regions. Again, it makes it very easy to take apps as is and move them up to the cloud with existing procedures that they have. And here's a specific example of how Cloud Block Store helps MEDITECH. MEDITECH is the EHR platform many healthcare applications use for their critical patient records. And critical patient access data is critical, right? We've seen so many news of hospitals that have been hit by ransomware and effectively have to shut down or defer patients to other hospitals. And so we, in partnership with Bridgehead, built essentially a backup as a service for MEDITECH EHR. And that ensures fast recoverability from ransomware or any sort of on-premises impact with safe mode. With us, those clinical patient data, those records and backup cannot be deleted, which is, again, the primary attack vector for a ransomware actor. On top of that, it's not just about backup as a service. You can actually even now run MEDITECH EHR out in the cloud. So if you decide ultimately to either move there for a ransomware event or run there permanently, you can do that for the first time now with Cloud Block Store and MEDITECH, because native cloud storage was not MEDITECH certified, but all Pure Storage is. So that allows you, as a healthcare customer, to continue to run as is your MEDITECH up in the cloud and know that the entire stack is certified. Now let's talk modern applications and how Portworx, our Kubernetes data services product, helps you run them anywhere. Portworx is our storage and data services solution for Kubernetes. It makes running stateful apps in Kubernetes easy, including apps that need mission-critical enterprise features. Portworx really unlocks the ability to containerize any application. Can you go back one slide, please? And that allows for full data services for Kubernetes that previously often those environments didn't have, from storage to backup to DR to application and data migration, security and infrastructure automation. A lot of the reasons, a lot of the fundamental data services that some traditional enterprise apps needed that was preventing them from getting essentially containerized, Portworx provides that to essentially unblock your containerization journey. And Portworx is widely acknowledged as the #1 data services platform for Kubernetes. GigaOM, for the second year in a row, ranks Portworx as a leader. And if you actually look at the arrow, it's, again, the closest to the center, which is where the leadership position is out of all the vendors. And they specifically call out Portworx as the gold standard for cloud-native Kubernetes storage in the enterprise. This is available anywhere, across any cloud, across any infrastructure. And finally, Outposts. As I mentioned earlier, at Pure, our entire stack is AWS Outposts certified. We're the first partner to do that. And Pure enables Outposts to fundamentally manage larger data sets in more advanced ways. Pure acts as a data hub, connecting Outposts to Pure storage and concurrently to other data center solutions. So as an example, we can go well beyond the 96 terabyte limit into hundreds of terabytes, even petabytes. It also allows us to provide high availability across nodes, racks, Outposts, availability zones, so you can fail over in seconds. So as an example, the entire environment, we can enable data protection, again, protecting Outposts against ransomware actors. And we can easily do outpost to outpost data replication, providing that high level of nines availability that many enterprise apps require on premises. Now let's finish where we started. Pure delivers a modern data experience, and that's about creating a single consistent storage layer that can help you unlock the value of your data anywhere and can help that data and that application be much more mobile than it was otherwise. The modern data experience does all of these four things, from accelerating core applications, making your insights much faster from any application, activating real-time analytics and AI anywhere, no matter what the scale, no matter what the location, you can deliver real-time analytics there, enabling true multiple cloud service provider ability, the ability to run any app anywhere, even that legacy monolithic app that's been around forever. You don't have to refactor it. It can run great as is in AWS. And finally, modernizing data protection, ensuring that you can always recover from ransomware events. Again, it's not, with ransomware, it's not when, it's not if, it's when. You'll always have some degree of protection against it, but usually ransomware actors are often able to find a way in, and you need to have a multi-pronged strategy to protect yourself and to also ensure recoverability. And with Pure and with Safe Mode, we can ensure recoverability so that your backups can never be deleted and your backups can always be restored in minutes to hours instead of the days or weeks or months that is too often. And we've done this for thousands of very happy customers. And as a result, we have by far the highest net promoter score of any primary storage vendor. And what that means is that it's a score so high that virtually every customer would strongly recommend Pure to their peers. I want to thank you for your time today. We do have a few minutes left, so I'm happy to take questions. We've got microphones up here, and also I would like, if you want, please fill out the survey at the end of the session. I'd love to hear back from you as to how you think it went. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, it's obviously a packed hall right now. I'd love to take them. Must have been a wild night last night.
What would you say is your favorite success story in what you've done with this so far? What can you really call out to demonstrate the value that you have offered?
You want to tell that specific success story? I'll grab you the mic. Well, I've got a bunch of them. So there's one of my favorite success stories is about Rise Lab, which is the place. It's in the University of Berkeley it's one of the places that originally created Apache Spark, and they have a massive environment that, with their existing Hadoop HDFS environment, they actually were kind of breaking scale and were having challenges in their ability to essentially run queries. There are certain types of queries that they simply couldn't run at all. And we basically transformed their architecture to FlashBlade, and it made them able to run queries much, much faster than before. Essentially all of these things that were blocked previously from a query perspective, they could unlock. And that came into play later when they had to do some genomic sequencing of I think about a 12-year-old patient that they ultimately could not have done had they not made that transformation. So they had to turn it around in a matter of hours, and they were able to find that patient had this rare condition that they were able to then provide advice on how to treat. Ultimately, you kind of connect the dots backwards. They were able to essentially massively improve that patient's outcome by running queries much faster, and even queries that they couldn't run before, that allowed them to get that sequencing done. Other examples are some of the largest hyperscalers out there, kind of below the AWS environment. We have seen massive environmental impact benefits. There is a extremely large, certainly not AWS size, but extremely large near hyperscaler that buys about a quarter of an exabyte from us at a time. And they did a massive comparison in terms of who out there uses the least sheet metal and the least power. And we were actually around half of every single vendor out there, including them essentially building themselves storage versus the open compute standard. And what that ultimately translated to, I don't actually have the stats off the top of my head, but it was just this remarkable amount of carbon displacement, this remarkable amount of power savings. Ultimately, I think a quarter of an exabyte could fit in 37 rack units, which is obviously pretty phenomenal. And the closest they were able to get prior to us was about a little under 100. Other examples, because I know Lewis Hamilton just won his 100th Grand Prix. Mercedes-AMG runs on top of Pure Storage. So if you look at the car that they have, that's a pretty interesting, if you think of it's almost like this car itself is like a CI/CD pipeline. They've got about 300 sensors on the car, and they'll race the car around the track in qualifying laps, and they'll make not just driver settings changes, but actual remanufacture physical changes to the car trackside. And they need that data to happen incredibly quickly. They need to be 100% uptime, but on top of that, they also need it to be very simple because they can only bring by the regulations, they can only bring a certain number of people trackside, and they don't want to waste a head on having somebody from IT there, so they need it to just work, but they need it to be available all the time. And anyway, last year they made changes to the car over 25,000 times, and it is estimated that they essentially were able to take the insights from those sensors and turn them into action faster than any of their peers. And as a result, they've won I think now 6 times in a row the Constructors' Cup. So it's essentially a great example of how data and getting data right actually can make you beat the competition. Their competition is McLaren, Ferrari, et cetera. And because they're able to turn those insights into action faster than their competitors, they are faster than their competitors are. A lot of people think it's much more about the driver, but in the industry, they say, look, it's 90% the car and 10% the driver. As much as we love the driver getting the credit, the better we make the car, the better our outcomes are. And it's just such a great example of data insights, getting them faster and turning them into action. And what's funny is that there's a few technology vendors that have their logos on the car. Those logos are far more expensive than anything that we would ever sell them. We've got a logo that's about that big. We're the smallest, but they still chose us as their data platform because they're like, we need something that's the fastest, the most reliable, and ultimately they went with us. And they've been with us for about 6 years now. Any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to let everyone go 1 minute and 45 seconds early. I want to thank you all for coming this morning. I really appreciate it. My contact information is up in the slides as well, so if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I really appreciate your time this morning. Hope you have a great rest of the conference.